people know it. It's overwhelmingly popular. Poll after poll after poll, Americans wanted this policy.
Which policy exactly?
Deportations. And even
mass deportations?
Absolutely. And even Hispanic Americans wanted it. A majority of Hispanic Americans wanted it as well. This is not controversial. Everybody's trying to make this controversial. It's not controversial. A couple of things. Number one, presidents always deport people. Barack Obama deported 3 million people. This is not controversial.
Yeah, actually,
and on top of that, one more issue. There's 1.3 to 1.6 million people who've already received deportation orders from a court. They've already gotten due process. That's a good place to start, not controversial.
Well, to your point about the deportations happening, one of the interesting things is, to your point, Barack Obama deported 2.9 million people in his first term, another 1.9 in his second term. But look at the Trump and Biden numbers. They're almost identical.
You know, Scott Jennings is single-handedly saving CNN. I'm just being honest right now, right? So we're going to talk about this might go all over the place, but I want to use the immigration thing as an example. You saw at the end, Scott Jennings laid out a perfectly good case. Look, Obama deported 3.2 million people. And then she went to, oh, look, Joe Biden and Trump has the same numbers of deportations. You know, Joe Biden deported like 1.5 million people. Donald Trump only deported 1.4 million people. But what she felt, this is how I say that the media, this is why the media can't be trusted. This is why the media, this is why trust in the media is dying, right? Because if you look at Trump's total illegal boarding crossings, right? Biden has more border crossings in 2 years than Donald Trump had in his entire term. I think 15 million people went over the border during the Biden-Harris administration, while only 4 million people crossed the border in Trump's administration. So when Trump deports 1.4 million people, that's 30% of people compared to people coming in and out. While Biden and Harris has 15 million people crossing the border as of time today, 10 to 15 million, whatever age range you want to use. It's way more than Trump. He only deported 1.5. If you look at the percentages, that's less than what? That's less than what? 5%? Not even 5%. It's less than 5%, 3%, maybe even 1%. So Trump deported 30% of illegal border crossings versus Biden's 1%. And she tried to make this numbers look like the same. And you wonder why I don't trust liberals. You wonder why I don't trust Democrats. You're trying to trick me. How many people cross the border? Oh, 15 million people. Oh, and Joe Biden only deported 1.5 million people? While Trump only had 4 million people cross the border and he deported 1.4 million. That's a bigger share. This is why I'm tired of these people. And this is why they're out of a job. I pray that they're out of a job. Because these journalists think that they're the arbiters of truth.
I think our reverence for the truth might have become a bit of a distraction that is preventing us from finding consensus and getting important things done.
What is that? What are those important things, liberal journalists? The truth is only a distraction for your end goal, right? You're mad that we're going to come out here and deport all your Democrat voters that you worked so hard, you spent so much money bringing into the country. This is how I see it. This is nothing but political gain for the Democratic parties. They know that illegal immigrants, if you give them citizenship, they have a high chance, high probability of voting Democrat. So they see these people as importing Democrat voters coming into the country. This is why they get so mad. This is why there's such backlash against mass deportation, because they see that they're losing their servant class. And this is how many Democrats see immigrants. They see immigrants like a servant class, right? They see the illegal immigrants like, oh, you guys are supposed to be mowing my lawn. Who's gonna pick our cotton? This is how liberals see it. This, especially liberal white women. Y'all exposing yourselves. Because she's like, oh, who's gonna cut our grass? Here, let me give you anecdotal evidence, right? Let's say deportation happened. My grass still gonna get cut. It's an American dude that cut my grass. Sometimes I let the neighborhood kids cut my grass. They bring their own equipment. They cut my grass. I give them $20. But she's sitting here acting like, oh my God, you're going to disrupt everyone's lives if you mass deport. When that only makes up the minority of the Hispanic community. That makes up the minority of immigrants in this country. But here you are trying to group them all together. I'm tired of the facade. I'm tired of the games, right? And I'm going to go into this clip to illustrate how the media tries to excuse this lack of trust that people like me have with them. Let's take a look.
But I want to recognize that for all the flaws of the mainstream media, and we have a lot of them, it's not just the media's fault that trust has been declining for decades. It's also decades of attacks by politicians.
That is the main issue, is that, like, I mean, yeah, it could be that the Washington Post is endorsing candidates, or it could be that there are millions of voters who believe lying politicians who tell them lies, knowing that they are. I mean, that could be the problem, too.
CNN edited a video to make it appear as though Trump impatiently dumped a box of fish food into the water in Japan. The full video showed Trump had simply followed the lead of Japan's prime minister. In June 2017, NBC News reported that Russian President Putin said he had compromising information about Trump. Actually, Putin said the opposite.
Do you have something damaging on our president?
Well, this is just another load of nonsense. Where would we get this information?
The New York Times and CNN shared a story with photos of immigrant children in cages. It turns out the photos were from 2014, during the Obama administration. In November 2019, Newsweek falsely reported that President Trump was spending Thanksgiving golfing in Florida. He was actually in Afghanistan serving dinner to U.S. troops. CBS aired a story in March of 2020, supposedly showing a New York hospital crowded with patients.
It's all hands on deck in America's hospitals.
It was actually file tape from Italy. A week later, CBS News mistakenly used the Italy video again. In May, the BBC and The Guardian reported because Trump wasn't wearing headsets, he didn't bother to listen to the translation of a speech by Italy's prime minister. But Trump was wearing his earpiece in his right ear, as always, said the White House. Newsweek reported Poland's first lady refused to shake Trump's hand, but later acknowledged she did.
And they have Pikachu surprise face why people don't trust the mainstream media. Oh no, it's not us. It's these lying politicians that's saying that we're fake news. But you are. You're lying to us. Right? You do these false framings. And I use the immigration as an example. Because these people, they know, like, they're in the pocket of the Democratic Party. There's reports that Chris Wallace quit CNN and he's walking away from a 7-figure salary. And rather than renegotiate his contract, he plans to go into an independent streaming or podcasting, pointing to Joe Rogan and Charlemagne as examples. Legacy news outlets are losing viewers, but even more important, they're losing their powers to set narratives. Trump's 2024 landslide could have been the death knell for the MSM and mainstay old-fashioned outlets run for the exits. You are the new media, Daily Beast broadcast. Chris Wallace? Do you know, if you know Chris Wallace, if you read the history of Chris Wallace, his family is like in the news business, the news media business. I think his father was very famous for being an outstanding reporter. But this is what our media has become, especially on the left and CNN and all these, and they're surprised why they're losing viewerships, right? I alluded to this before in my prior videos, but Kamala Harris' campaign was caught dishing out $500K to Al Sharpton's nonprofit just weeks before her big interview with him. So was Kamala Harris' campaign just one big money laundering scheme? No wonder the mainstream media is in the pocket of Democrats. They all are part of a big money laundering operation. These are the perceptions around legacy media. This is the branding of CNN, MSNBC. Then you're like, yo, why these people fight so hard to discredit everything the Republicans or someone on the right says about them or says about the Democrats? They always run covers for the Democrat. Scott Jennings finished I'm going back to deportation. Scott Jennings eloquently outlined, hey, look at all these things that Democrat presidents used to do, and then they try to spin a point by saying, trying to create a perception that Joe Biden was just as good on the border than Donald Trump, but they don't provide context to the overall picture. Like I did. Joe Biden had more border crossings. and he only deported 100,000 more people than Donald Trump, and Donald Trump has significantly less border crossings. It's so funny they never focus on border crossings because that don't help the Democrats look good. Now they're here pressuring Eric Adams to rule out if he's going to deport people from New York. Like, this is the media. This is your reputation. Don't sit here and act like this is unfounded and people just making it up out of thin air. And so what? Donald Trump was the one who called to attention fake news. If you look at public sentiments on news network, it was your trust in news was already declining by the time Donald Trump said fake news. All Trump was tapping into something that already existed. But hey, whatever excuses that help Abby Phillips sleep at night to excuse the failings of her network. And a part of me is kind of happy that they're laying off a lot of you guys because y'all getting paid millions of dollars to give us propaganda, to not inform us. Like, make it make sense.
Communicate with President-elect Trump and have communicated with him. Will you express concern about mass deportations in the city?
My concern is one concern, and we keep tinkering around the edges. We keep having this philosophical conversation about it. The voters communicated loudly and clearly. We have a broken immigration system. It needs to be fixed. That's the only conversation I want. It's broken. It needs to be fixed. And New York City was devastated by that broken system. 220,000 migrants and asylum seekers have made their way here. No financial assistance from the administration. I think it was about $200 and something million with billions of dollars we had to pay for. I don't want to see that happen again. I don't want what's taking place in Chicago and Denver, Los Angeles, Houston. I don't want to see it take place again. Let's fix our immigration system. Anything other than that, I'm not interested in that conversation. We have a broken system. I talked about this in 2022, just as I talked about violence in 2021, and voters made this the top of their list. The top of their list. When I was talking about it, everyone was being dismissive of me, and voters said, this is a problem. And if we don't have a conversation about fixing the system, everything else is just being philosophical and theoretical, and I'm just not going to engage in that. Let's fix the system.
To be clear, sir, are you saying leave people here alone, focus on the system, or are you not even engaging on what might happen in the city and just focus on the system fix? So I understand your position.
Well, part of it is we need to either pick up the course. Cities should not be dealing with a national problem. We need to pick up the course. And
like, look at the questions these reporters are asking. Does that sound like someone that's just looking for information, looking for clarification? It almost looked like you guys were trying to defend. Like if he had said, yes, I'm going to cooperate with Donald Trump to do mass deportations because I believe it's a national issue, what would the response be? We all know the response. We know how you will respond to that. You'll throw this man under the bus. You'll give him negative coverage. And you essentially create a perception around him that will tank his campaign, tank his chances of running for Senate, governor, whatever he wants to take his political. You're going to try to ruin his political career because he goes against the interests of the established Democratic doctrine. Democrats like illegals in the country. And when Donald Trump said he wants to deport illegals, you try to rebrand illegals and say, oh, they're migrants. They're migrants just like anybody else. They're just undocumented. No, you broke a law to get in here, and we have to uphold the law. But for some reason, maybe they're getting paid. They do all these attempts to make you think that the media, like the Democrats, are better than the Republicans. When if you're thinking about it from a journalistic standpoint, they're not supposed to make you think anyone's a better option. All they're supposed to do is inform you. Hey, Donald Trump is planning to do this. Kamala Harris is planning to do this. Here's what some Americans are reacting to the information. What do you think? And that's essentially how I expect a journalist to conduct themselves. But not like how Joy Reid is the worst example of journalism. The closer journalism is to what she's doing, the worse it is. And I'm going to play it. I know a lot of people don't like Joy Reid, but I have to play this to make my point stick.
And it was not just Gen X, because while 91% of black women voted for Kamala Harris, 53% of white women overall voted for Trump. despite the open disrespect and demonization hurled by J.D. Vance and the Supreme Court stripping women's bodily autonomy, courtesy of Donald.
One, aren't women split on the abortion issue? Aren't the biggest pro-life advocates are women? Right? She's trying to make this false consensus like all women just unanimously agree that abortion is a good thing. So in her mind, oh, you're voting against your best interest. That don't sound like a journalist to me. I digress. Let's continue. But they wonder why their ratings are down. They wonder why people don't trust the mainstream media. Okay. Let's continue.
Donald Trump, who closed his repulsive campaign by dropping the B word on Nancy Pelosi. The breakdown by education was stark. Harris won 57% of white women with college degrees.
Which you already know my perception on this. College degrees. College is an institution overran by liberal ideologues, leftist ideologues, right? For every one conservative teacher, there's 12 liberal teachers. So a lot of college-educated people have been conditioned to think in the same worldview as Democrats. So they've been primed to vote Democrat. So this is not the flex that I think that Joy Reid think it is.
Lost 63% of white women without them. It was also men. Trump won every age group of men, including 60% of Gen X men and 6 in 10 white men. Also Latino men, who despite the utter disrespect shown by Trump and his promise to deport some of your mixed status families.
Does she show evidence of him saying this? No. All this is projection. All this is a conjecture. This is all based on her imagination, right? People fear more from imagination than from reality. She can't give you a clip substantiating her claim, yet she expects you to sit here and trust her framing of events. This is why I say I'm very skeptical of the media. This is why I feel like with leftists, when I talk to them, I'm saying, okay, how you going to try to trick me to go along with your conclusions? This is the game they play. Purely obvious. If you treat the media like I treat them, hey, these people are not credible. They have to prove their credibility to be. I'm always asking, what's your evidence? What is backing up that that statement? What's backing up that claim? And you find out there's a whole lot of imagination and fluff.
Most of them voted in a 55% majority to make the deportations happen. Y'all voted with Stephen Miller and David Duke and against your own sisters and chose Kamala Harris with 60% of their votes. So you own everything that happens to your mixed status families and to your wives, sisters.
Mixed status families. They broke the law. If my wife committed murder, you expect me to like just, let's hide the fact. Let me help you hide the dead body. People will be like, no, your wife has to go to jail, Kenny. She committed a crime. These people don't believe in principles. They care about convenience. They care about power. All they care about is what's in our best interest. But they don't think about the country as a whole. Because at the end of the day, you may do something that benefits you in the short term, but in the long term, you'll get hurt by the events. Oh my God, the government can no longer sustain government spending. We're in hyperinflation. We're in debt. Because inflation, government benefits, the cost of government benefits is inflation. So if you bring in more people who are incapable of taking care of themselves, majority of illegal immigrants are on welfare, government benefits, the like. That's why Eric Adams had to stop funding it, had to cut them off because they cost him almost $1 billion. But you don't think adding more of these people coming into the country, creating an incentive structure where we reward them for breaking our laws is not a bad thing? And you wonder why people don't trust the news. Joy Reid is the same person that tries to encourage people. If you know a family member that voted for Trump, don't associate them. Like, don't associate with them. Oh, we believed in different values. No. Politics is not about values. Politics is about approach. Hey, what approach are you going to take to solve this problem? There's no values about it. Politicians are not my moral leaders. They're not my pastors. They're not my father. I'm not going to cut someone off because of somebody that don't even know my name. But this is what Democrats are doing. And they have the gall to say Trump supporters are in a cult. I've never met a Trump supporter that said I disown my family members because they voted for Harris Waltz. I only heard people who vote for Harris Waltz threatening to disown their family members because they voted for Trump. But y'all pretend y'all the tolerant ones. Fake narrative. I watch your actions, not your words. Wisdom. But this is the media apparatus. This is leftism for you. Leftism do these moral indignations. They do this virtual signaling in one purpose and one purpose only: to control their power and influence. That's the only reason they do all this stuff. They present themselves in a positive light because they want you to believe in the hype. But then you find out they're all flash and no substance. And they wonder why their ratings are collapsing. This is accountability. It was a long time coming. And I'm glad y'all finally getting y'all karma and your consequences. Because they're out here dramatizing everything. Oh my God, when Trump wrecks the country in a year, y'all better not be asking for help. And I'm like, yo, what a strong imagination you liberal Democrats have. Y'all got a very good imagination. Like Trump wasn't in office 8 years ago. Like, make it make sense. Comparative analysis says that Trump's the better choice. Sorry. 70% of the country said that we're going in the wrong direction. Joe Biden is the most popular president in U.S. history, but majority of them said we're going in the wrong direction. Make it make sense. But this is the Democrats for you. And they got their little branding, marketing arm called the legacy media, called CNN, called MSNBC. And then they say, yeah, we cover the news objectively. And people laugh in the crowd because we know you're biased. But I digress. I think I went on a little tangent there. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate you guys watching to the end of the video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.